Before cities learned to glow at night, before roads cut across continents like veins of steel, there was only the sound of rain. Not a light rain, but a constant, living downpour that never truly stops, only shifts in rhythm. In the heart of Central Africa lies a world where the sky never feels distant. It hangs low, heavy with moisture, as if it has descended to meet the earth halfway. Beneath it stretches the vast emerald body of the Congo Rainforest, a living expanse so dense and continuous that from above, it looks like the planet itself has been covered in a single green breath. Here, light does not fall, it filters. Sunbeams fracture against layers of leaves, breaking into soft gold shards that drift through mist like slow-motion fire. The air is thick, warm, and alive, carrying the scent of wet earth, sap, and endless growth. Every surface glistens, every shadow moves. Deep within this world, sound becomes its own language. The distant call of unseen primates echoes through towering trees. Insects pulse in rhythmic waves, rising and falling like a single unified heartbeat. Even silence feels occupied, as though the forest never fully sleeps, only listens. This is not a landscape that stands still. It breathes. Roots pull water from ancient soils, while canopies exhale oxygen into the atmosphere in an exchange older than human memory. Rivers carve their way through the green darkness, reflecting fragments of sky that appear and vanish between bends. Somewhere beneath the canopy, elephants move like living shadows, reshaping the forest with every step. Time behaves differently here. It is not measured in hours, but in growth and decay, in the fall of a giant tree, in the sprouting of new life from its fallen body. The Congo Rainforest is not just part of the earth, it is one of its lungs, and to enter it is to realize something unsettling and beautiful at once. This world was never silent. We simply forgot how to listen. At the center of Africa lies a vast, natural basin that holds one of the most important ecosystems on Earth, the Congo Rainforest. Covering over 1.7 million square kilometers, it is the second largest tropical rainforest in the world, surpassed only by the Amazon. It spans across multiple countries, forming a continuous green expanse shaped by deep geological history and ancient environmental stability. At the heart of this region is the Congo Basin, a massive structural depression formed millions of years ago through tectonic processes. As the Earth's crust shifted and settled, this low-lying basin gradually became a natural collection zone for water, sediments, and organic material. Over time, this accumulation created fertile conditions for dense vegetation to take root and expand. The basin is surrounded by higher plateaus and mountain ranges that help define its boundaries. These elevated edges act like a natural barrier, trapping moisture within the region. As a result, rainfall is not only abundant, but also retained within the system, feeding rivers, swamps, and underground aquifers that sustain the forest year-round. One of the most defining features of this landscape is the immense hydrological network it supports. The mighty Congo River and its countless tributaries cut through the basin like branching arteries. These waterways do more than transport water. They shape the land itself. Over millennia, they have carved channels, deposited nutrient-rich sediments, and created vast floodplains that expand and contract with seasonal rains. Unlike fragmented forests found in many parts of the world, the Congo Rainforest remains largely continuous. This uninterrupted canopy allows ecosystems to function on a massive scale, enabling wildlife migration, genetic exchange, and ecological resilience. In many ways, it is one of the last great intact forest systems on Earth. The geological stability of the region has also played a crucial role in its development. For millions of years, the Congo Basin has experienced relatively consistent climate conditions, without major glaciation events that reshaped forests elsewhere. This long-term stability allowed ancient plant and animal lineages to survive, evolve, and diversify without interruption. As a result, the forest today is not just a collection of trees, it is a living record of Earth's ecological history. Towering hardwoods, dense understories, swamp forests, and riverine ecosystems all coexist within a single vast system, each shaped by water, soil, and time. The geography of the Congo Rainforest is therefore not static terrain. It is a slow-moving story written by rivers, carved by rain, and preserved by time itself. In the Congo Basin, climate is not a background condition. It is the force that shapes everything. The region sits directly along the equator within the reach of the intertropical convergence zone, where warm air masses rise, collide, and release immense volumes of rainfall. This positioning locks the Congo rainforest into a perpetual cycle of heat and moisture, creating one of the most stable tropical climates on Earth. Temperatures remain consistently warm throughout the year, usually hovering between 24 degrees Celsius and 30 degrees Celsius. There are no dramatic winters or summers, only subtle shifts in rainfall intensity. Instead of traditional seasons, the forest experiences alternating wet and less wet periods, both of which still deliver significant precipitation. Rainfall is the true architect here. In many parts of the basin, annual precipitation exceeds 2,000 millimeters, and in some regions, even more. Rain often arrives in heavy, rhythmic bursts, sudden downpours that drench the canopy, followed by misty stillness as the forest exhales moisture back into the air. Humidity remains persistently high, often above 80%. This saturation creates a thick atmospheric layer where evaporation, condensation, and precipitation exist in a near-constant loop. Water is never far from any process. Every leaf collects it, every root absorbs it, and every organism depends on it. This climate structure supports a vertically layered ecosystem unlike almost anywhere else on Earth. The forest is organized into distinct ecological tiers. At the top, emergent trees rise above the canopy, exposed to full sunlight and strong winds. Below them, the canopy forms a dense, interlocking roof of leaves that captures most of the solar energy and regulates the forest's internal temperature. Beneath this lies the understory, a dim and humid world where light is scarce and plants adapt by growing broad, efficient leaves. Finally, the forest floor remains in near-permanent shadow, where decomposition dominates and nutrients are rapidly recycled back into the soil. Each layer functions like a different world, yet all are interconnected. Energy flows downward from sunlight captured in the canopy, while nutrients cycle upward through roots, fungi, and decaying matter. This constant exchange sustains one of the most productive ecosystems on the planet. The Congo's tropical climate also encourages extreme biological specialization. Plants evolve to thrive in low light, animals adapt to narrow ecological niches, and microorganisms break down organic matter at astonishing speed. Life does not spread thinly here. It concentrates, overlaps, and interlocks. Even slight climate variations can ripple through the system. A small change in rainfall patterns can alter flowering cycles, migration routes, or fruit availability, affecting everything from insects to elephants. In the Congo Basin, climate is not just weather. It is structure. It is rhythm. It is the invisible architecture that holds an entire world in place. Water is the lifeblood of the Congo Basin. It moves through the forest not as a single force, but as an endless branching network that shapes land, life, and time itself. At the center of this system flows the immense Congo River, one of the most powerful rivers on Earth, surpassed only by the Amazon in volume and recognized as the deepest river in the world. Its dark waters cut through the rainforest in long, winding arcs, carrying sediment, nutrients, and the history of countless upstream landscapes. But the Congo River is only the visible spine of a much larger system. Thousands of tributaries extend outward in all directions, forming a dense hydrological web that reaches deep into the forest interior. These waterways feed swamps, floodplains, and seasonal wetlands that expand and contract with the rhythm of rainfall. During heavy rains, large portions of the basin transform into temporary aquatic landscapes. Forest floors become shallow lakes. Tree roots stand submerged in still, tea-colored water. Entire ecosystems shift into semi-aquatic states, where fish swim among submerged trunks and amphibians thrive in newly formed pools. These wetlands are among the most productive ecological zones in the region. Nutrient-rich sediments carried by rivers create ideal conditions for plant growth, while slow-moving waters provide breeding grounds for countless aquatic species. The result is a constantly renewing system where life is both stable and transient. The river network also acts as a biological highway. Species use waterways to migrate, disperse seeds, and access new habitats. At the same time, rivers create natural barriers that isolate populations, leading to genetic divergence and the emergence of unique species. This dual role, connection and separation, drives much of the Congo Basin's extraordinary biodiversity. Within this hydrological complexity lie biodiversity hotspots, areas where life reaches exceptional density and variety. These zones are often located at river confluences, swamp forests, and floodplain edges where multiple ecosystems overlap. In these hotspots, fish diversity rivals that of entire continents. Birds gather in vast numbers along seasonal waters. Mammals depend on river corridors for survival, especially during dry periods when resources become concentrated near water sources. Even the smallest organisms, algae, insects, fungi, form intricate food webs that sustain the entire system. One of the most remarkable aspects of these aquatic environments is their dynamism. Unlike static landscapes, they are constantly shifting. A river may change course over time, creating new habitats while abandoning old ones. Flood cycles reshape entire regions, redistributing nutrients and redefining ecological boundaries. In the Congo Basin, water is not simply a resource. It is a sculptor, a connector, a force that continuously rewrites the geography of life itself. Life in the Congo Basin is not arranged in simple categories of plants and animals. It is an interwoven system where every organism depends on another, forming one of the most complex ecosystems on Earth. The forest begins with its giants. Towering hardwood trees rise more than 60 meters into the sky, forming the backbone of the ecosystem. Species such as mahogany, ebony, and iroko dominate the upper canopy, their massive trunks anchored by buttress roots that spread like stone waves across the forest floor. These roots are not only structural, they also help stabilize shallow tropical soils that are quickly leached by heavy rainfall. Beneath these giants, a constant struggle for light defines plant life. Vines twist upward in spiraling competition, wrapping around trunks in search of sunlight. Lianas connect tree to tree, forming natural bridges across the canopy. Epiphytes, plants that grow on other plants, cling to branches and absorb moisture directly from the humid air. Orchids, mosses, and ferns thrive in this suspended world, turning the canopy into a floating garden. On the forest floor, decomposition drives life. Fallen leaves break down rapidly in the humid heat, feeding fungi, insects, and microorganisms that recycle nutrients back into the soil almost immediately. In this environment, death is not an end. It is a transformation that fuels new growth. Animal life is equally diverse and deeply specialized. Among the most iconic inhabitants are the great apes. The bonobo and the chimpanzee share close genetic ties with humans and exhibit complex social behaviors, including cooperation, communication, and emotional bonding. Deep within the forest, these primates navigate both physical and social landscapes with remarkable intelligence. The forest is also home to the powerful eastern lowland gorilla, the largest of all gorilla subspecies. These gentle giants move slowly through dense vegetation, shaping the environment as they forage for fruit, leaves and stems. On the forest floor and in the understory, the elusive leopard remains one of the top predators. Its spotted coat blends seamlessly with dappled light, making it nearly invisible as it moves silently through shadows. Elephants, specifically the forest-dwelling African elephant, act as ecological engineers. As they travel, they clear paths through dense vegetation, disperse seeds across long distances, and create clearings that allow new plant species to grow. Their presence helps maintain the balance of the entire ecosystem. Birdlife adds movement and color to the canopy. Hornbills, turacos, and parrots fill the air with calls that echo across vast distances. Many bird species have evolved specialized diets tied to specific fruiting trees, creating tightly linked ecological relationships. Insects dominate in sheer numbers. Millions of species, many still undiscovered, carry out essential roles in pollination, decomposition, and soil formation. Termites, for example, build towering mounds that regulate temperature and humidity while enriching the soil beneath them. Reptiles and amphibians thrive in the humid environment as well. Camouflaged frogs, snakes, and chameleons occupy nearly every ecological niche, from riverbanks to canopy branches. What makes the Congo Basin extraordinary is not just its biodiversity, but its interdependence. Every organism plays a role in maintaining the balance of the system. Remove one thread, and the structure begins to shift. Even today, scientists continue to discover new species in this vast green world, revealing how much of its complexity remains hidden beneath the canopy. In the Congo Basin, life is not simply abundant. It is layered, interlocked, and endlessly evolving. For thousands of years, the Congo Rainforest has not only been a place of survival, it has been a home, a teacher, and a living presence for the indigenous peoples who inhabit it. Among these communities are groups such as the Mbuti, Aka, and Baka peoples, often collectively referred to as forest peoples. Their lives are deeply intertwined with the rhythms of the forest, shaped by generations of knowledge passed down through oral tradition and lived experience. To them, the forest is not a resource, it is a relative. Every river, tree, and animal holds meaning beyond its physical presence. The forest is understood as a living system with its own spirit, capable of giving life, providing guidance, and maintaining balance. This worldview fosters a relationship of respect and reciprocity rather than domination. Daily life is guided by intimate ecological knowledge. Hunters read subtle signs in broken branches or animal tracks. Gatherers identify hundreds of edible and medicinal plants, many of which are unknown to modern science. Seasonal cycles of fruiting trees determine movement patterns, social organization, and survival strategies. Music and storytelling are central to cultural identity. Songs echo through the forest during communal gatherings, often imitating the sounds of birds, insects, and wind. These performances are not merely entertainment, they are expressions of connection between humans and the natural world. Spiritual beliefs are deeply rooted in the forest environment. Many communities believe in forest spirits that inhabit trees, rivers, and animals. Rituals are performed to honor these spirits, ensuring harmony between human activity and ecological balance. Healing practices are closely tied to plant knowledge. Traditional healers use bark, roots, and leaves to treat illness, drawing on centuries of accumulated understanding of the forest's medicinal properties. Despite modernization and external pressures, many indigenous groups continue to preserve their way of life. However, land encroachment, deforestation, and political marginalization threaten both their culture and their environment. In many ways, these communities represent a living archive of ecological knowledge. Their practices demonstrate a model of sustainability that has allowed human life and rainforest ecosystems to coexist for millennia. The forest, to them, is not separate from humanity. It is part of it. And within that relationship lies a lesson the modern world is still struggling to understand. For most of human history, the Congo Rainforest remained a vast, largely unmapped world, its dense vegetation, humid climate, and labyrinth of rivers forming a natural barrier to outside intrusion. To those who lived within it, it was familiar and deeply understood. To outsiders, it was a place of uncertainty, myth, and imagined danger. That changed in the 19th century, during the age of European exploration and imperial expansion. Driven by scientific curiosity, trade ambitions, and colonial competition, explorers began pushing deeper into Central Africa. Among the most well-known was Henry Morton Stanley, whose expeditions along the Congo River helped map large portions of the region and opened it to external influence. What followed was not merely exploration, but rapid colonization. Under King Leopold II of Belgium, the region became the personal possession of the so-called Congo Free State. What was presented to the world as a humanitarian and civilizing mission quickly revealed itself as a system of intense exploitation. Rubber and ivory extraction became central to the colonial economy, driven by global demand and enforced through brutal labor systems. Villages were coerced into meeting quotas. Forest resources were stripped at accelerating rates. Indigenous communities, who had lived in balance with the land for centuries, were subjected to violence, displacement, and profound social disruption. The forest itself was reshaped by this period. While its vastness made total deforestation impossible, targeted extraction created pockets of environmental degradation and altered traditional land use patterns. Rivers that once served as lifelines for local trade became routes for colonial control and resource transport. In 1908, international outrage over abuses led to the transfer of the territory from Leopold's personal rule to the Belgian state, forming the Belgian Congo. Although some reforms followed, the underlying extractive system remained largely intact. Colonial rule left deep and lasting imprints. Infrastructure such as railways and river ports was developed primarily to move resources outward rather than to connect local communities. Economic systems were restructured to serve external markets, and indigenous governance structures were weakened or replaced. Even after independence in 1960, the legacy of colonial exploitation continued to shape the region's political and environmental trajectory. The patterns established during this era, resource extraction, external dependency, and uneven development, still influence how the forest is used and perceived today. The Congo Rainforest, therefore, is not only a natural landscape. It is also a historical one, marked by centuries of human ambition layered onto an ancient ecological system. In the present day, the Congo Rainforest stands at a critical intersection between ecological preservation and economic development. Spanning across multiple nations, the forest remains one of the most resource-rich ecosystems on the planet, holding vast reserves of timber, minerals, fertile soil, and fresh water. These resources are essential for national economies. Logging operations extract valuable hardwoods for global markets, while mining activities target minerals such as cobalt, copper, and coltan, materials crucial for modern electronics and energy technologies. Expanding agriculture also pushes deeper into forested areas as populations grow and demand for land increases. However, this development comes with significant environmental cost. Deforestation fragments habitats, reducing the continuity that defines the Congo Rainforest. As roads and extraction sites expand, previously remote regions become accessible, accelerating land conversion and wildlife disruption. The impact is not limited to trees alone. Wildlife populations decline as habitats shrink and human activity intensifies. Forest elephants, primates, and countless lesser-known species face increasing pressure from habitat loss and hunting. At the same time, the Congo Basin plays a crucial global role as a massive carbon sink. Its trees absorb and store vast amounts of carbon dioxide, helping regulate the Earth's climate. When forests are degraded or cleared, this stored carbon is released, contributing to global warming. This creates a paradox. The forest is both a source of economic opportunity and a vital component of planetary stability. Efforts to manage this tension are ongoing. Governments, conservation groups, and local communities are increasingly working toward sustainable resource management and protected areas. Yet enforcement challenges and economic pressures make long-term preservation difficult. The future of the Congo forest will depend on how these competing forces are balanced in the years ahead. The Congo rainforest is vast, but not invulnerable. Beneath its towering canopy and winding rivers, a quiet but accelerating transformation is underway, one shaped by human pressure, climate instability, and ecological imbalance. One of the most immediate threats is deforestation. Logging, both legal and illegal, continues to remove large sections of valuable hardwood forest. As roads are built deeper into the wilderness, they open once remote areas to settlement, agriculture, and further extraction. What begins as a narrow cut in the forest often expands outward like a fracture spreading through glass. Hunting also places pressure on wildlife populations. The loss of key species disrupts ecological balance, particularly in areas where large mammals once played vital roles in seed dispersal and forest regeneration. Climate change adds another layer of uncertainty. Although the Congo rainforest has historically been stable, shifting rainfall patterns and rising temperatures are beginning to alter its delicate cycles. Extended dry periods in some regions increase fire risk, while unpredictable rainfall affects plant growth and river systems. Despite these challenges, conservation efforts are growing. Governments across the Congo Basin have established protected areas and national parks aimed at preserving critical ecosystems. International organizations provide funding, research, and monitoring tools to track deforestation and biodiversity loss. Local and indigenous communities are increasingly recognized as essential partners in conservation. Their traditional knowledge and sustainable practices offer effective models for managing forest resources without depleting them. Innovative approaches, such as satellite monitoring, community-based forestry, and carbon credit programs, are also being developed to align economic incentives with environmental protection. Yet the scale of the challenge remains immense. Conservation is not a single solution, but a continuous negotiation between human needs and ecological limits. The fate of the forest depends on whether these efforts can keep pace with the pressures it faces. In the heart of Africa, the forest still breathes. It rises each morning in mist and sound, in the rustle of leaves and the distant calls of unseen life. It flows through roots and rivers, through rain and decay, through cycles that began long before human memory and continue beyond human control. The Congo rainforest is not a silent backdrop to history. It is a living participant in the story of the planet. It shapes the air we breathe, stabilizes the climate, and shelters a level of biodiversity found nowhere else on Earth. Yet its future is uncertain. What stands today is both ancient and fragile, a world built over millions of years, now facing pressures that have emerged in only a few generations. To preserve it is not merely an environmental choice. It is a recognition of interconnection, that the fate of distant forests is tied to the fate of the global climate, and ultimately, to our own survival. And so the question remains, hanging in the humid air like mist at dawn. Will the forest continue to breathe as it always has, or will its silence become something we remember too late? For now, the Congo still lives, and its pulse is the pulse of Earth itself.